Nobody watches these except for me. So, what's up, Josh? How are you doing? Oh, not too bad, not too bad. All right, so in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at pawn structures. I think I'm going to be doing this, or I know I'm going to be doing this for a while. I play exclusively from the white side d4, so I come into contact with the Isolani or the IQP, isolated queen's pawn. So I'm going to take a look at that as well as just one game because I got to go to bed soon. It's 8:20 here, dark and raining. So I have set up here on this board editor a typical pawn structure that you see the IQP, the Isolani. I want to talk about what white's plans are, and then take a look at black's plans, and then analyze a game from two GMs pretty quickly, and just kind of get a feel for everything. So white, from this position, has two major plans. The first one is to create a kingside attack, and the second is to get the pawn break d4, d5. So white is going to want to get their knight to e5, typically by way of f3. e5, they're going to want a bishop on g5. And then ideally you would create this sort of battery with the queen and bishop on the h7 pawn. You would have, most of the time, you're going to have your rooks on either, your rook that starts on a1 is either going to go to c1 or d1, and typically you'll have your other rook on e1 so that it can go to e3 and eventually h3, targeting this h7 pawn. So that's what you're looking at most of the time. Don't think there's anything else. Oh yeah, also with the pawn break d5, d4, this comes as a pawn sacrifice, just to open some extra lines. But if you can get it without a pawn sacrifice, your position is going to be pretty phenomenal. You should be doing well in theory. So that's kind of what white's plans are. Black's plans would be to place a knight on d5. Knight typically in the beginning or the middle game, you want a knight on d5. And then you want to trade off pieces. Ideally, you want to trade off the light squared bishop. Light squared bishop is white's strongest bishop in most d4 games. Like the Queen's Game Declined, the white bishop is very strong. It generally sits on d3. If white's playing a more passive game, they'll put it on e2. But ideally, white would like to have their bishop on d3, targeting this h7 pawn, and it's pretty strong. Their black bishop, their dark squared bishop, a lot of times is behind the pawn chain. If it does get out, it's typically traded off sometimes for over like here. So it's not white's strongest bishop. It's going to be the light squared bishop. So if black can trade that off, they're going to be in a very comfortable position. And then later on, they might switch this out for either bishop or rook towards the end game. But black's plan is kind of just to remain equal and go into a nice end game, especially if they can trade off that light squared bishop. So let's go ahead and take a look at a game. This is from 2013. World Rapid Championship. This is Vadiv Zajangidzev versus Rodrigo Vasquez, and I'm sure I butchered the first person's name, but to be fair, the first letters are Z, V, and J, so I'm white. I don't know what the F that is. So this starts off as an English opening, and then this is some sort of like French Caro-Kann anti-Caro-Kann thing, but it actually ends up transposing into some sort of Scandinavian type thing. So right here we can see we've already entered in the isolated queen pawn structure, and we're getting closer to what we evaluated earlier. So these are standard setups. Here we can see now that we have the pawn structure we took a look at earlier, and they have this knight on d5, comfortably blocking this pawn break on d4, d5. So that's where they're at. Bring the rook to e3. Now, this knight maneuver, I'm not so sure about this. Well, actually, I think it might be kind of necessary at this point. This a6 or a3 move right here, this is a pretty typical plan for white, especially after you have your knight to f6, because what black wants to do is they want to bring their knight to b4 and then place it on d5, and then they'll have these two knights working in tandem here, and they'll be in a pretty good position, especially if they can get this sort of thing, maybe trade off the light squared bishop further down the line. So that's where they're at. So, however, in this this position, they now play a6, which is somewhat slow. More accurate would be b6, allowing them to develop their bishop the next move. So say we had something like d3, because we want to bring this either here or here to get this battery on the h7 square. So say queen d3. Queen d3, knight a5, targeting the light squared bishop. Bishop to a2. Knight takes d5. Let's see. Wait, is that? Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at this is incorrect. They're saying is this pawn break doesn't work at this time because you have knight a5, and then from there bishop a2, then knight takes d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, queen takes d5, and let's see, bishop e6. So right there. So I think this should be near equal. Yeah. So the evaluation is 0.1. That's essentially equal. So instead, if we were to do queen d3 and then b7, so this is just a standard Isolani position. So again, about equal. But instead, the a6, now bishop a2. And from here, this position's been reached a ton of times if you check a chess database. However, about half the time they make the blunder b5. So with this blunder b5, it allows d5. And at this point, white will be able to have a very comfortable position. So instead, what's better than b5 would be c7 here. c7, e3, d8, rook d8, and queen c2. This should be about equal. Well, it still favors white somewhat, but not too bad. All right. So after b5, we're going to be playing the move, the pawn break d5. It's kind of the whole motif of this isolated queen pawn structure that we want to reach. Here we have e takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5, and bishop b7. So, and the reason that you don't want to do queen takes is because bishop takes, bishop b7. Let's see, bishop takes c6, and we pick up that piece at the end of that. So that is why you don't want to have that whole operation. So let's see, where are we? Okay, bishop b7, queen h5. Right here, white's definitely got an edge. This pawn is pinned. Our queen's over here attacking h7. We're going to be able to get this bishop. Oh, sorry. This bishop and this knight up here. We'll be able to do our little rook lift. Where white is doing fairly well here. There's not much going on the queen side, where a lot of the pieces are over here. Black doesn't have much counterplay, it seems. This is weak. So just not a lot going on for black. So black plays queen c7. From here, bishop g5 we talked about in the original structure. Now we have this move, which I thought was pretty friggin' awesome. Instead of worrying about the knight being captured, this rook lift, e3, because if we get this capture, we get this, and it's pretty much it's game over at that point. So cannot recapture. Knight a5, and this. So let's see, right here, this position. This is a huge blunder. This is a5, because they did not see the beautiful tactic of queen g6. So here, it's basically all she wrote at this point. Really nice game by white. Just playing all the this little rook. This rook to e1 stops the king from being able to escape once the queen comes in here. It's pretty much just game over from here. So yeah, I thought this game demonstrated very well the common themes of the isolated queen pawn. I also recommend the book Chess Structures, the Grandmaster Guide by Mauricio Flores Rios, where I studied all this stuff. This is by far and away one of the best books that I've ever read. He seems to have an incredible grasp on just how pawns affect the chess game. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hope it helped. But I don't think anyone watched, so it doesn't matter. All right, have a nice night.